I've done videos in the past where we talked about some of the rules for DC Dual Force and what you need to know about the game before you play it, but quite a bit of that information has actually changed over the course of the last year. Keywords have changed, and some of the assumptions we made about the game were just wrong. This video is right from the developer's mouth though, so we're going to just take a look at the new website, all of the new updates, go over each individual rule. That way you've got one-stop shop for everything you need to know about the way the game works. Later today, I'm going to have a video out about all of the energy cards in the game. That's right, I'm going to review every single energy card in the game in a single video, and we're going to go through video by video and slowly review every single faction in the game. Until then, though, let's focus on the core rules. Bear with me, I'm still getting over COVID right now, so my voice is a little ruined, but I'm sure you understand. Let's get into it. This is our DC Dual Force overview. We're going to get right into the walkthrough here. First, we get a look at the game board, how to play. Here's a game board overview. We have a 3x2 grid on each side. So our opponent has a 3x2 grid. We have a 3x2 grid. We can see each of the decks there. This player has 36 cards in their deck. If you zoom in, you can see that, in 34 in the opposing player's deck. We know that the starting deck size is 40. That is the bare minimum size. You have 20 cards from one of your factions and 20 cards from another one of your factions. And we'll go into that a little bit more later in this document. Here we get a look at the player's hand. They're holding nothing but bronze cards, so they're free to play any single one of these cards. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Don't you worry. Your leaders. We have our 2 leaders in play. These 2 leaders always start in play. You never shuffle these into the deck. You never draw them. They're just in play at the start of the game. We can see Batman's been injured there, but he's at 18 health. And you can see Wonder Woman is perfectly healthy at 21. Not every leader has the same health value or defense value as it's called in this game. There is no health value, it's just defense. Not all leaders are equal. For example, the Flash has 17 health, going off of memory, surely that's correct. Green Lantern, or Hal Jordan I should say, has 20 health, or again, defense. You lose the game once you lose both of your leaders. Let me jump into the next slide here. This is talking about the leader's power. So you see another value on the leader there. You'll see that we each have 2 of this charge here, and they're referring to it as power in this case, I think. Most of the card effects refer to this resource as charge, so you can charge your leader to gain more of this resource, and then you spend this resource on your leader abilities. We've got plenty of videos on the channel where we talk about leaders, and then of course later today I'm going to have a video out where we talk about every single energy card. That will include leaders, and you'll learn a little bit more about that there if that's what you're interested in. Okay, moving on to the next slide, we have resources. So I have a full holistic understanding of how resources work, okay? You'll be surprised just how much of a debate this was and just how hard it was to finally figure out all of this information, but we are fully caught up to date on how these resources work. So, as you can see, this player here who we are watching is on their turn 1, so they have 1 bronze resource available to them. That means they can play 1 bronze card from their hand, and that's all they can play. The only exception to this are free cards. Some cards have no cost associated with them. You can play those cards whenever you like. You do not need any amount of resources to play them. You can play them underneath any circumstances. But in this case, because I have 1 bronze resource, I can play 1 bronze card. As you progress throughout the game, so during my next turn, I'll gain another bronze resource. So I'll have 2 bronze resources, but you can never have more than these 2 resources. So during my next turn, instead of gaining another bronze resource, my lowest value resource will upgrade. So in this case, it'll be a bronze. So one of my bronzes will become a silver resource, and then I'll have a silver and a bronze resource. Then during my next turn, my other bronze resource will also become a silver resource. Then I'll have 2 silver resources. Then at the start of my following turn, so this is now my 5th turn, I will have a gold resource. So I'll have a gold and a silver resource. And believe it or not, that's actually where it stops. You cannot get 2 base gold resources. It just stops at 1 gold, 1 silver. During this next slide, we can see that this is still our turn 1, and they're illustrating that, yes, look, you can play any one of these cards as you want. I don't know why a utility belt isn't highlighted, because you can also play utility belt. Oh, I see, because they're showing off these are your recruits. Right, sorry. This is, they're just talking about recruits here. Here we get a look at our enemy leaders. Now, interesting note, this is not so much to do with the game rules, but we can see that there is a Doomsday leader there. There is no currently leaked version of Doomsday, which is weird. We have access to a full card database with every single card in the game, and we haven't seen Doomsday. So perhaps that card database will be updated over time, and we'll find out that Doomsday is indeed going to be a leader, or perhaps this is some type of PvE scenario, and this is the only case of Doomsday being a leader. Hopefully that's not the case. We can see that he has an orange border there, so the guess is that he'll be an Anarchy leader, but perhaps not. Perhaps that's a wait and see kind of thing. This screenshot isn't particularly important for any of our game rules here. Just know that both Mad Hatter and Clayface are bronze cards, so the opponent played 1 bronze card and another bronze card, so they had access to 2 bronze cards. So I guess it was their turn, their second turn, and this player who we're watching This is their first time. Moving on to the second half of this document, we have the how to play section. So in this, we're going to see a little bit about some of the more core rules. So as we can see, we have the option of mulliganing. We can mulligan any number of these cards if we want to. We can see that these are all silver cards, so we're probably going to mulligan quite a few of these. We have Back Computer Huntress, Queen Hippolyta, is how I'm going to choose to pronounce that. Sorry if I butchered that. And then Hammer Throw. We can see that you draw a card automatically at the start of each of your turn. So some of our assumptions we made about drawing cards and hand sizes were wrong. So starting hand size is 4, and we draw 1 card every turn. Then we have play your cards. They just talk a little bit about playing cards and what that process is like. Here's a look at attacking. I mean, we could already assume quite a lot about attacking, but if you wanted to see it, there it is. You have activate your leader abilities. They're just talking a little bit about the leader abilities we're already aware of. You can see a little bit of the game history on the left, though. That's kind of cool. All right, deck building is super interesting in this game, so let's talk about it a little bit. So first of all, you 100% have 2 card slots for each card. I guess if you weren't aware of this, I suppose I should mention it. You have 2 leaders, you put 1 on the left and 1 on the right. Their positioning is determined during the deck building phase. You can't change this throughout the game, excluding some weird card effects that perhaps we'll talk about in a future video. One thing I will mention on the screen, though, is that the player has 3,714 coins, and then there is another currency right there. I'm assuming this is for crafting material. And we'll talk a bit more about that in just a moment. Here we get our first look at the deck collection screen, and there's some pretty important stuff to mention. First of all, guaranteed 2 copies per card is the maximum. Not just because we only own 2 copies, but these diamonds next to the number of copies of the card that we own suggest that there's only going to be 2 per deck. We do see an example very shortly, in fact, I believe on this next slide. Yes, see, look. So as you can see, we own 4 copies of this card, but we can only put 2 of them in our deck. I would assume this means the excess copies can be disenchanted for that extra currency we can see on the right-hand side, and we can turn that extra currency into additional cards. That's just an assumption, though. We don't see any confirmation of that here. Then we have playing and editing. Again, not too big of a difference here, but this is just kind of confirmation of what we were just talking about. We can see that on the center of your screen here, we see Super Strength. We have 0 copies of it left in our collection, but we've put 2 of them in our deck, and we can see the 2 copies on the right-hand side in our deck screen. So yeah, 100% confirmation of some of the assumptions we made just there. All right, beautiful. That's going to be it for me. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the core rules of the game. I'm signing out, and I'll catch you in the next one.